The other day, my neighbors had a party for their 4-year-old, and they hired a clown. Well, I just marched right over there and kicked that clown in the groin, because I don't think clowns are as friendly as they appear to be.
Every woodworker uses hand tools. I don't care if you're Norm Abram, not everything is done with a shop full of fancy power tools. Here at the Stumpy Nubs workshop, we use a lot of hand tools. And frankly, I'm sick and tired of walking all over the place trying to find them when I need them. It's time to make a tool cabinet. I spent some time, I drew something up, and I call it the ultimate tool cabinet.
I thought a lot about whether I wanted doors on my tool cabinet. In the end, I decided I did, because even though I like to display my tools, I also want to have as many layers as possible. And by taking advantage of nesting doors, I was able to create a tool chest that has several layers of tools. Behind the main doors on each side, there's these other fold-out tool doors. This creates a total of 7 layers of tool storage. Underneath that we have 6 drawers, a full plane till in the center, and these handy little tool slots that use custom tool holders to hold screwdrivers and chisels.
I designed this tool cabinet not just to be useful, but I wanted it to be interesting to build here on our shelf. So I incorporated a lot of different joinery. We're going to do hand-cut dovetails, we're going to do half-blind dovetails, sliding dovetails, finger joints, dados and rabbets, raised panels. We're going to make special jigs to do a lot of things and do things in different ways. And I really think you're going to want to see the entire build, which is going to take a few weeks.
This week we're starting with the carcass. We decided we wanted to use solid oak, but all we have are some narrow boards. That means glue-ups. And this week we're going to show a unique way to do it.
Edge gluing boards is a pretty simple thing. You just slap some glue on and you press them together. But you can often have a couple of different problems. First of all, the glue makes it slippery, and so when you try to clamp it together, it can slip out of alignment. And the second problem is it takes a lot of clamps. So if you're gluing up a lot of panels, you often run out of clamps before you run out of glue up.
Adding biscuits can help keep those boards lined up. The problem is the traditional joiner that cuts the slots for the biscuits can be hard to hold straight, and if it rocks while you push, it cuts a slot that's too wide. So we designed our own bench-mounted biscuit joining machine. It's made almost entirely of wood, and it really takes the hassle out of cutting those biscuit slots. You don't have to clamp a board down and then try to hold the biscuit joiner steady. It's got an adjustable table using a system of wedges that you can slide the board along, and a handle that plunges our modified biscuit joiner into the board. It's fast, it's accurate, and it was pretty cheap to make. It just uses a little bit of wood, some roller ball bearing drawer slides, and a cheap biscuit joiner that only cost us about $40.
You don't want to use an expensive biscuit joiner for this project. If you have a $250 or more biscuit joiner, save that for when you want to do handwork. But if you have one of those cheap Harbor Freight biscuit joiners, you know, the one that's got the really crappy plastic fence and that worthless depth adjustment knob, this is going to give it new life. You're going to want to build this machine just so you can use that biscuit joiner.
We strip all that plastic junk off. All we need here is something that's going to spin a blade. So take off the depth stop, cut the little tab that holds the springs, all of it has to go. And then we're going to make all of our movable parts and adjustment mechanisms out of some plywood scraps and a few screws.
Luring customers but it's more likely that they served as bouncers.
It took us a while to get the design all right. It's a little bit complex and we had to tear it apart and change it several times, but we finally got it just right. It uses a table that moves up and down to adjust the height of the biscuit slot. We found that to be much more accurate than moving the tool itself up and down. That table rises by using a system of wedges underneath that's adjusted by turning a crank. It really works well, and even though this machine's a little bit complex, it can be put together in about a weekend using mostly scraps that you have around in the shop. All you're going to have to buy are a few fittings and a cheap biscuit joiner. The end result is a machine that cuts slots with remarkable speed, efficiency, and accuracy. It really speeds up our glue-ups. The most important step of a good glue-up is joining your edges properly. Whether you do it with a power joiner or a hand joiner, you want to take your two boards, fold them together like a book, and do the matching edges together. This will cancel out any error in the angle. When you're laying out your biscuit slots, there's really no need to skimp. The things are cheap, and the more you have, the easier it's going to be to hold everything right when you clamp it. This is actually the first time we're using this new biscuit cutting machine. After we shot this footage, we decided that we wanted to add some safety features. Something to hold the board down, maybe a feather board that attaches to the fence, and a clear plastic blade guard would be great. So we're working on adding that right now. One feature that we've already added is a spring on each side of the top right behind the handle. This pulls back on it and really makes it more convenient to use to cut a lot of slots. You'll notice that we cut our biscuit slots closer to the edge, not right down in the center. There's a reason for that. You'll see in a little bit. We like to put glue on both surfaces. A little squeeze out's easy to clean up. And always remember to glue your edges before you put the biscuits in the slot. It'll make it a lot easier to spread your glue evenly.
Players Club members receive.
Since we're breaking all the fine furniture making rules anyway by using biscuits, I may as well tell you what I think about pocket hole joinery.
I admit to being a newcomer to the pocket hole revolution, mostly because I don't do a lot of pocket holes, and I think the price of the pocket hole jigs are a little pricey for all that plastic. Then I discovered the Craig mini jig, and it was love at first sight. First of all, it's cheap. It's less than 10 bucks, 20 if you get it with the step drill bit, and you're going to want it with the step drill bit. But I also like the way you can fit it in tight spots to make last minute repairs. Why am I telling you about a pocket hole jig now? Because we use it to do our glue ups. You see, if we're doing panels that are going to be hidden on one side, we use pocket hole screws to hold it together instead of clamps. It's great. It holds things tight, it keeps the board flat if your edges are jointed properly, and you don't need to tie up all your clamps, especially when you're doing a lot of glue ups at once. You can plug these holes when you're done. Or, if it's a place like the bottom of our tool cabinet, well, is anyone ever going to see them? This is why we cut our biscuit slots close to the top surface of the board. We didn't want the screw to go into the biscuit. We clamp it together when we put the screws in. But when we're done, we're going to get to remove those clamps. So we really only need a couple clamps for the whole project, no matter how many glue ups we're doing. And it holds it tight. You could start using this board to cut your dovetails right away. And with those biscuits, the seams are nice and tight. If you get any squeeze out, a scraper works great to clean it up. When it's dry, you can even take the screws out. You don't need them anymore. You especially should if you're going to be doing any planing. You'd hate to catch one of those screws with your blade.
We're going to be making plans of our biscuit joining machine available to people who want them. We're going to have to charge a few bucks, but really not that much. If you're interested, send us an email, stumpynubs@runbox.com. Next week, we continue our ultimate tool cabinet build by doing a whole show about dovetails. And we're going to show you another really unique jig that we're working on. You're not going to want to miss it. Or so, the Super Bowl is over. What are you going to do with your Sunday afternoons? Well, I asked everybody at the Stumpy Nubs workshop to make a list of all the things you can do with your time. Here's some of the best ones. Try to think about penguins. Try not to think about penguins. Use your secret mind power. Pretend you're a robot. Scratch yourself. Scratch someone else. Rate people who pass by. Repeat the same word over and over until it loses meaning. Pinch yourself. Try to swallow your tongue. Pretend to be a car. Make Star Trek noises. Invent a weird twitch. Make a low buzzing noise. See what's in your neighbor's trash. Watch our show and repeat everything with an Italian accent. Make prank phone calls. Send prank emails. Step off a curb with your eyes shut and imagine it's a cliff. Try to sound Welsh. Google what Welsh people sound like. Burn things with a magnifying glass. And finally, get into the workshop, make something nice, and send it to me. Then you can sit back, have a cold one, because you've earned it, my friend.